The man jolted awake from his night. He found his limbs tied down and felt a burning pain inside. He stared in disbelief at the lunatic before him. It suddenly hit him that the seemingly chance reunion was actually a carefully planned trap. But he still couldn't wrap his head around how that poor kid who used to follow him around 8 years ago could turn into such a psycho. A few days ago, Bai Zhixuan ran into Li Daojing on a street corner after work. At first, he didn't recognize the boy from next door, now all grown up. Not until he saw the disappointment on his face did he barely piece together that familiar look from memory. Li Daojing had just returned from studying abroad. He carried himself with maturity and confidence, but his tone was still as clingy as when he was a kid. I think about you every single day. Bai Zhixuan figured it was just small talk, smiled, and brushed him off. He made an excuse about how late it was, and told him to head home. But just as they were about to part, Li Daojing suddenly grabbed him in a tight hug. I'm so happy I got to see you today. Let's hang out more often from now on. Bai Zhixuan didn't think much of it, just figured he was excited about seeing him again. But from that day on, Li Daojing started showing up everywhere. Whether he was at his main job or his side, even just walking down the street, Bai Zhixuan would always run into him. Once or twice might be coincidence, but after it kept happening, Bai Zhixuan had had enough. He told Li Daojing straight up to stop coming around. This is putting a lot of pressure on me. The smile on Li Daojing's face froze instantly, but he quickly pulled himself together. He said softly, okay, just have one drink with me, and I'll never bother you again. Bai Zhixuan had no choice but to agree. That night, right after he got off work, Li Daojing appeared like a ghost in front of him. He was carrying a bag of ice-cold beer, with an innocent smile on his face. Bai Zhixuan softened and brought him home. Zhixuan told Daojing to make himself comfortable while he took a shower. But while he was gone, Li Daojing picked up the clothes on the floor, sniffed them again and again, then smiled with satisfaction. When Bai Zhixuan walked out of the bathroom drying his hair, he found Li Daojing had already opened all the beers and lined them up neatly on the floor. He didn't think much of it and just sat down. He and Li Daojing drank and chatted. Suddenly felt dizzy. He tried to stand up but found his body had no strength. He collapsed hard onto the floor. Meanwhile, Li Daojing calmly checked his watch. Took longer than I thought. To escape, the man tried pretending to be obedient to gain the psycho's trust, but the result was nothing like he expected. Picking up where we left off, after a night of being whipped, Bai Zhixuan came down with a fever. Even though Li Daojing took care of him, he still couldn't forgive him. Don't touch me. Li Daojing didn't care and said gently, I'm worried about you. Give me your wrist. Bai Zhixuan tried to refuse, but a sharp pain shot through his wrist. He looked up and met Li Daojing's dark, terrifying gaze. It sent chills down his spine. In the end, he had no choice but to give in. While bandaging him, Li Daojing put on that gentle mask again. It'll hurt me if you get scars. Bai Zhixuan couldn't help but curse in his head. Who caused these injuries? How can he even say something like that? When Li Daojing went downstairs to get Bai Zhixuan dragged his aching body to the window. Outside was an endless forest, like a prison cut off from the world. No sense of direction. He didn't even know where he was. But the one silver lining was that guy's whole world revolved around him. So he decided to wait and see. What he didn't expect was for Li Daojing to so easily give him back his phone and tell him he could ask for whatever he needed. Bai Zhixuan could hardly believe his ears. Isn't he worried I'll call the cops? Or does he have some ace up his sleeve? Right, his family is loaded. Even if he called the cops, it'd be useless. Bai Zhixuan's mind raced, and he quickly came up with a plan. He immediately grabbed Li Daojing before he could leave. Wait, there is something I need. Li Daojing asked what it was. Bai Zhixuan tried to stay calm. I can't sleep in new places. Can you give me some of those pills you made me take before? Li Daojing's eyes narrowed instantly. He finally nodded in agreement. Fine, but you have to take them in front of me. Oh no, the man thought his plan had worked. He thought he could finally escape, only to find out he'd been tricked again. Picking up where we left off, Li Daojing agreed to his request, but he had to take the pills in front of him. Even though Bai Zhixuan felt guilty, he had to agree. He just didn't expect the guy to check so thoroughly. Once he left, Bai Zhixuan finally breathed a sigh of relief. Good thing he held one back. Over the next few days, Bai Zhixuan played perfect beating cat. He finally saved up 5 days' work. But when everything was ready, he hesitated. These past few days, Li Daojing hadn't touched him and had been especially gentle. That's all. Bai Zhixuan shook his head hard. That psycho locked me up and hurt me. He's not the Li Daojing I used to know. Just then, the sound of the door unlocking interrupted his thoughts. Li Daojing saw him standing. He immediately pulled him into a hug. I'm so happy. Bai Zhixuan took advantage of the hug. Want to have a drink together later? Li Daojing froze. That's kind of sudden. Bai Zhixuan explained he was bored being stuck at home. Li Daojing immediately agreed. But what Bai Zhixuan didn't know wasn't that Daojing also bought him chocolates. He said they go great with red wine. Bai Zhixuan didn't think much of it at the time. He anxiously watched Li Daojing drink the wine. But the drugs obviously didn't kick in that fast. Li Daojing asked why he wasn't drinking. He made an excuse about it being his first time and only took a tiny sip. Li Daojing smiled adoringly. If you don't like it, you can eat it with chocolate. Bai Zhixuan didn't care what he was eating. Time dragged on. Li Daojing showed no signs of falling asleep. Bai Zhixuan's anxiety was about to burst out of his chest. Then he had an idea. He grabbed the bottle and chugged some. Then he turned Li Daojing's face toward him and passed the wine into his mouth. Li Daojing blushed, but still fed Bai Zhixuan chocolate in return. They kept going like that, one feeding wine, the other feeding chocolate, like some kind of game. Finally, Li Daojing's body slowly slid down and he passed out. Bai Zhixuan immediately rushed to the bedroom to search. But after he found the car keys, his vision started to blur. His limbs felt heavy. He stumbled toward the door, but tripped over something. As Bai Zhixuan lay on the floor, his consciousness faded. The last thing he saw before Daojing's sinister face. Bai Zhixuan knew he was done. Endless punishment awaited him. Bai Zhixuan never imagined the consequences of a failed escape would be this severe. That pervert's whipping got even worse. The torment left Bai Zhixuan completely shattered. But then Li Daojing suddenly asked him, do you know why I went abroad to study? Mom said the way I felt about you was sick, that if I stayed away I'd get better. So I planned to come back as soon as Mom let her guard down. But I found out it wasn't as simple as I thought. But when I finally came back, he didn't understand how I felt. All he wanted was to run away. Before he could finish, Bai Zhixuan's hands were around his throat. But even gasping for air, Li Daojing didn't fight back. Instead, he coughed and said pitifully, "Guess I'm just unnecessary to you. Easy to hard to stay with me. You promised me you'd be my family." Tears streamed down his face. Bai Zhixuan suddenly remembered. When Li Daojing was little, his drunk father used to beat him. It wasn't until his father died that Li Daojing was 5. Back then, he felt sorry for the kid. He asked if he wanted to come stay with him, promising he'd work hard to take care of him. Li Daojing was so moved he hugged him and said he couldn't go back on his word. He even made Bai Zhixuan promise to be his lover when he grew up. Bai Zhixuan figured it was just childish talk back then and agreed without thinking much. Bai Zhixuan snapped out of the memory. Li Daojing kept apologizing in his ear. "I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. Please don't leave me." The man thought once he escaped, he could live a quiet life. But for some reason he kept thinking about those days of being punished. Picking up where we left off, Bai Zhixuan finally understood. Li Daojing had turned into such a psycho because of him. Back then, he thought Li Daojing was too young to understand, so he agreed. He regretted it now. But that still didn't justify him locking him up. Even if he stayed by Li Daojing's side, things would only get worse. So when Li Daojing woke up, there was only a note on the pillow. Bai Zhixuan was long gone. A year later, Bai Zhixuan went to visit his sister, but she kept worrying about him living alone. Bai Zhixuan laughed it off, saying he was doing great and she didn't need to worry. Only then did she let him leave. Looking at the familiar alley felt kind of strange now. He escaped that day, he had no choice but to move out of the neighborhood where he lived for 10 years. He worked hard to start over in the unfamiliar place. Just then, hot coffee burned his tongue. As he fumbled in his pocket for a tissue, his fingers touched a cold car key. He thought he'd lost it, so that's where it was. He tossed it into a trash pile. But the next second, he rushed to pick it back up. After he escaped, he worried Li Daojing would come looking for him, but he never did. But just thinking about what that guy did to him made him furious. Yet he couldn't stop thinking about Li Daojing's red. About that obsessive phrase, "You said you'd be my family." Just then, a coughing sound snapped him out of it. Bai Zhixuan whipped around. Li Daojing was curled up against the wall. His face, his voice was hoarse. "What Zhixuan?" Before he could finish, he collapsed. Bai Zhixuan dropped his umbrella and rushed over. Talk about a crazy obsessive. The tongue piercing was actually a GPS track. Picking up where we left off, Bai Zhixuan brought the unconscious Li Daojing home. When he woke up, it felt like he ruined you. "I feel like I ruined you." But Li Daojing misunderstood, thinking Bai Zhixuan had made up his mind to get him out. He cried like a mess, begging Bai Zhixuan not to kick him out. He came to apologize. "You didn't do anything wrong. It was all him being selfish." But he didn't want it to end like this. He couldn't give up on him. Tears kept falling. "I won't be greedy and just let me stay near you. Please, don't push me away." Bai Zhixuan's heart softened. He turned to hug her. Zhenjie comforted him. "What you did to me, let's just erase it. I guess I can't just ignore you either." Hearing that, tears streamed down Li Daojing. But the next second, Bai Zhixuan pushed him down hard. "But you have to promise me one thing first. No more acting crazy. If something comes up, we talk about it." Li Daojing quickly played dumb and agreed. But then Bai Zhixuan couldn't help worrying again. "Are you sure you don't need to see a doctor? Your fever seems worse." Li Daojing said shyly that sleeping it off would be fine. "Plus, we haven't seen each other in so long. I don't want to be apart from you." Seeing him half cute, Bai Zhixuan gave in, but what he didn't expect was to be woken up soon by something burning hot behind him. Bai Zhixuan sat up in a panic, telling him they needed to get to the hospital. But Li Daojing hid under the covers and refused to go. Bai Zhixuan got worried. He yanked the blanket off, only to see little Daojing standing tall. Bai Zhixuan was Li Daojing looked miserable too. That's why I didn't want to go. Then he looked at him pitifully. "Can you help me?" Turns out the crazy guy's obedience was all an act. It was just his disguise all along. Picking up where we left off, faced with Li Daojing's ridiculous request, Bai Zhixuan was speechless. "Did the fever fry your brain? Why would I help you with that?" But the guy suddenly hugged him and acted cute. "I'm sick. My hands are weak." Bai Zhixuan's ears turned bright red. In the end, he gave in. But when his palm was rubbed raw, Bai Zhixuan finally had enough. "Are you ever going to finish?" Before he could finish, Li Daojing yanked him close. He said pitifully, "Just help me one more time, please." Bai Zhixuan softened again, stressing it was the last time. Li Daojing nodded eagerly, but a triumphant smile crept onto his lips. But what Li Daojing didn't expect was the metal clinking on his tongue, making him freeze. Bai Zhixuan was still wearing that tongue piercing. He figured the micro GPS he'd implanted a year ago would have been tossed by now. He never thought he'd still be wearing it. Li Daojing's heart soared. Sure, he'd reset the GPS in his phone, but it didn't matter, as long as he liked it. Li Daojing climbed back into bed, like a cat that got the cream, savoring the hard-won sweetness. But it was all thanks to Bai Zhixuan's sister.